Welcome back to Zandvoort for race 2 of 3 across this weekend here in the circuit that's carved out of the sand dunes by the Netherlands coast. Welcome, it is the FIA Formula 3 European Championship and race 2 in the mid-afternoon, which is about to get underway local time. And as you can see, the grid is set in a very busy place as the drivers all line up for their second race. The grid is formed from the fastest lap times in the second part of Q2. And from pole position, we will find Daniel Tichtum. There is his car, the Moto Park machine, which finished P5 in the race this morning. And Dan Tichtum then in the perfect position to convert P1 on the grid to a P1 in the race. Ralph Aron, who did a fantastic job in race 1 today by taking the win, taking his second win of the season so far, goes from P2 on the grid, the Prema Theodore racing driver. Dan Tichtum driving, of course, for the Moto Park team. Mick Schumacher, it goes from P3 on the grid. Mick Schumacher was on the podium taking P3 in race 1. All the focus on him, as you can see, and Alex Paulo then with a good job in quali 2, going from P4 on the grid for the high-tech Bullfrog GP driver Alex Paulo. Who was yet to take a win. He's taken a P2 in the season, but a win has eluded him so far. Marcus Armstrong for Prema Theodore Racing. They really had a very dominant performance in race 1. He's going from P5 on the grid, just ahead of his Prema Theodore Racing teammate Guan Yu Zhu for car number 1 that finished in P2 in the race this morning. So work to do for Guan Yu Zhu, to be fair, from P6 on the grid, with overtaking here at this 4.3 kilometer circuit somewhat difficult, it has to be said. Ferdinand Habsburg is going from P7 on the grid for driver of car number 62. Ferdinand Habsburg then, his eyes full of focus and concentration then ahead of the start of the race. Alongside Ferdinand Habsburg then, the Moto Park racer Jury Vips. And Jury Vips in car number 44, finishing P6 in the first race, and starts from P8 on the grid for this race. Marino Sato is a driver of car number 33, going from P9. So the Moto Park racer Marino Sato going from P9 on the grid for race 2. Lowly P19 finish for him in the race earlier today. And this is Robert Schwartzman, the Prema Theodore racer and member of the Ferrari Driver Academy, going from P10 on the grid. So Robert Schwartzman, supported by the SMP Racing concern. As the grid girls make their way off the grid, we turn our attention to the number 13 car of Fabio Scherer, who goes from P11. Final preparations inside the cockpit of that car. Nikita Troitsky then, the Carlin driver, goes from P12 on the grid. Another driver supported by SMP Racing, and Jonathan Aberdeen provided some entertainment for us in the course of the first race. A big battle going on with Jonathan Aberdeen, and he's going from P13 on the grid. And again, perhaps surprising us, Gian Daravala much further down the order than we would expect to see. He's got work to do from P14 on the grid. For Gian Daravala then finished the race P12. It was just one place away from his worst finish this season, so work to do for Gian Daravala. Sebastian Fernandez, the Motor Park racer, going from P15 on the grid. He's 1:29.595, giving him P15, his best time from Q2. And then the number 65 car of Inem Ahmed then, the high-tech Bullfrog GP driver who was leading the Drivers' Championship before going into the last round at Norris Ring, he's also got work to do from P16 on the grid. The number 77 car is that of Ben Hingley for the High-Tech Bullfrog GP team also. It's a P17 start. So the 1 minute 12 seconds away from the start of the formation lap. As the sun begins to continue to beat down. How can it begin to continue? It continues to beat down. My apologies. So 1 minute away from the start of the formation lap for race number 2. The same race duration, 33 minutes plus 1 lap. FIA F3Europe.com, the website where you can find out everything that you would like to know about the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. And the talent pool that exists on the grid. Dan Ticktum then going from P1. Staggered grid here at Zandvoort. And there the P2 driver, Ralph Aron, who actually has the inside going into turn number 1, albeit a car length behind Daniel Ticktum, who will start on the outside. There is Mick Schumacher going from P3. Incidentally, in that Q2, Ticktum and Aron were the only drivers in the 28s. Everyone else in the 29s. So Ticktum and Aron have the pace in the qualifying session. Will they have the pace in the race? A great shot through that mirror as all the cars are released on their formation lap then. A few a bit shabby to get away. But eventually, they all do get away. So weaving from side to side at points during the course of this formation lap to try and generate some temperature into the tyres. Ticktum with a small lock-up there going through turn number 3. And here's the grid in full for you. Ticktum and Aron, then P1 and P2. Then it's Schumacher and Paolo. Ahead of Armstrong and Zhu, Habsburg and Vips, Sato and Schwartzman. Occupying the first 5 rows of the grid before we find Fabio Scherer. Then it's Troitsky, Aberdeen, Daravala, Fernandez, Ahmed, Hingley, Fenestras, Sophia Flörsch, and Julian Hanses rounding out the next 10 rows with Petrov, Andres, Vadyanathan and Floresco bringing up the final 2 rows of the grid. So the roller coaster circuit carved out of the dunes here at Zandvoort. Real old school circuit with no acres of tarmac runoff area. Just a little bit of sand, grass, and then a Armco fence to really bite you. Quite an undulating circuit as well with elevation changes, and well worth taking a walk round the track if you're here. I've done that, and whilst it's a tidy walk, it's through some really shows up the true elevation changes that drivers have to endure every single lap. So spinning up the rear wheels as they head towards their grid boxes, where they will park up millimetrically perfectly inside the grid box. Air temperature 22 degrees. Feels warmer than that, if I'm honest. Track temperature a balmy 41.1 as Mick Schumacher puts his car absolutely perfectly into the grid box, and Marcus Armstrong does the same behind. Fritz van Amersfoort watches on from the pit lane, the team principal of the Van Amersfoort Racing concern. And there is our pole sitter, Daniel Ticktum, then, in car number 27. 2 race wins in his campaign so far. Very good qualifying session in Q2, the fastest lap of which sets the grid for this race, the second fastest lap of which sets the grid for tomorrow's race. We await the green flag from the marshal at the rear, which right on cue comes our way, which means the start sequence can be got underway. When all 5 lights have extinguished, we will be away and racing. Keep your eyes on Ralph Aron then, who will try and get a blistering start and lock out Dan Ticktum. They're almost side by side. Mick Schumacher trying to take advantage as well. Aron has probably done enough here to be on the inside. They go almost 3 abreast, and Schumacher is one that is spat out and is out of the race. He just got a touch from the Ticktum car, and that means that before even a few meters are completed, Schumacher is out of the race. Alex Paulo has dropped back some. But Ralph Aron then did exactly what he needed to do right at the start of this race. And he puts himself in that P1 position. Robert Schwartzman there, I think, losing out. So Ralph Aron leading from Dan Ticktum. Then, of course, it's Marcus Armstrong. And then Ferdinand Habsburg and Juri Vips are having a fight there. And trying to buy into that as well as Nikita Troitsky, as the safety car is called for the stricken Mick Schumacher car. Oh, and Inem Ahmed and Gian Daravala have had it coming together as well. So we have lost Gian Daravala, or have we? No, he's able to keep going, although he's lost his front wing. And Gian Daravala was... So Gian Daravala there, you can see, has lost his front wing, and Inem Ahmed was holding on to the car to prevent it rolling down that banked section. Oh, and that's lovely, isn't it? And really helpful. Loads of gravel being carted all across the track. And Ben Hingley, we've also lost too, I think, somewhere. There is the very, very disappointed Mick Schumacher. He just got a touch at the start, and that was enough to send the car and spit it out into the gravel. Well, drama right at the start of this race, and safety car will be out for a little while because we've got the Schumacher car to recover. We've also got the Inem Ahmed car to recover. Inem's season is going from bad to worse after having had such a stellar start, and this is the Mick Schumacher car being recovered then. And there is the driver who will be bitterly, bitterly disappointed with that, having taken a strong podium in the first race. And there is Inem Ahmed then, who, as I said, his season is going from bad to worse. Going into the Norris Ring round, it was all looking so good, and now, unfortunately, we've lost him out of the race. We've also lost Schumacher. Daravala, we suspect, will keep going round to the pit lane, get a new nose on the front of the car and be out again. And we've also lost Ben Hingley, for what reason we know not at the moment. So the order then is Aron from Ticktum, Armstrong, Zhu, Paulo, Habsburg, Schwartzman, Juri Vips, Marino Sato, and then running in P10 at the moment is the car of Fabio Schirra. So the cars continue behind the safety car. And sure enough, in comes Gian Daravala. Then the Carlin team will go to work and put a new nose on the front of the number 9 car. Now he will be able to pick up the crocodile rear of the safety car. And let's get a replay of the start then. Ralph Aron was always going to try down the inside line, and try he did. Now that was where Schumacher made the decision to go to the outside. To be fair, Aron squeezes Ticktum. Ticktum makes the tiniest contact with Mick Schumacher, and that's what sends him off. You probably see it better from this angle if the camera pans down. So there's Ticktum trying to defend the inside line, but Aron is too far ahead. And then Aron squeezes, and you can see immediately breaking a steering component on the Schumacher car, and he's utterly defenseless and ends up in the gravel. So that was Daravala went round then and collected Inem Ahmed. Petro Florescu took to the gravel, was able to recover from that. So in fairness to Inem Ahmed, he was an innocent bystander. This, once again, from a different angle, you can see there is the touch between Ticktum and Schumacher. In fairness, Ticktum was being squeezed already towards the outside of the circuit by Ralph Aron. And, well, that was one that we did not pick up going into turn number 3. Certainly didn't see that one live. And there the Schumacher car is taken back out. I'd like to see a replay of that again, because we certainly didn't see that live. So the very, very damaged Ben Hingley car. We'd seen we'd lost him off the timing screen and lost him off the order, but didn't know why. But that was all revealed to us then. Mick Schumacher now relegated to spectating this race rather than competing in it. Safety car. Alfaron leading from Daniel Ticktum, P2. Now the incident between Dan Ticktum and Mick Schumacher has been noted, and I have to say, having looked at the number of replays that we have, Alfaron was on the inside, then out towards the outside, squeezing Ticktum, who in turn made contact with Mick Schumacher, and the safety car will come in at the end of this lap. So around about 4 turns from now, so we can go back to racing. It'll be 25 minutes, or well, 24 minutes plus 1 lap, as now Ralph Aron will back them all up, and Dan Ticktum will try and anticipate when Ralph Aron is going to go for it. Give it a footful, making their way through turn 10 now and through turn 11, the so-called Audi S section of the turns, and you can see how eager Ticktum is to try and anticipate when Ralph Aron is going to put his foot down. He's weaving from side to side. Aron goes for it now, quite reasonably anticipated by Dan Ticktum, but got just the got the shock on him momentarily, and Marcus Armstrong will be fancying his chances potentially as we go back to racing once again, and through turn number 1 they go. Gian Daravala right at the back of the pack, following that nose change, following his contact with Inem Ahmed. So Ralph Aron, Dan Ticktum, and then the Prema Powerfest continues with Armstrong and Guan Yu Zhu in P3 and P4. Splitting them, of course, is that Daniel Ticktum Motopark car running in P2, and Prema Fedor Racing leading with Ralph Aron in P1. Then it's Alex Paulo P5, Ferdinand Habsburg. Robert Schwartzman and Shuri Vips, Marino Sato and Fabio Schirra rounding out the top 10. This is Fenestras on Fernandez ahead. There is the number 16 car of Nikita Troitsky just ahead of that Jonathan Aberdeen car and Fernandez and Fenestras cars. So the number 3 car of Fernandez then being tracked by Sasha Fenestraz. So around the back of the circuit here at Zandvoort. And another lap completed and put in the book this time. Just look at the pace that Aron has got as now Armstrong around the outside of Dan Ticktum, but now we'll try and get underneath because Ticktum perhaps carried too much speed in defence and goes wide now and loses out to Guan Yu Zhu as well. So all of a sudden from P2 drops to P4 and coming under the coming into the target sights now of Alex Paulo. So Daniel Ticktum then tried to defend that move initially from Marcus Armstrong, and in so doing made himself vulnerable also to Guan Yu Zhu. And lining up behind Alex Paulo, here we can see. So Ticktum to the inside. That meant that Armstrong was always going to have to go around the outside, but then Ticktum just carried too much speed. He was able to switch back to the inside there, as you can see, for Marcus Armstrong. And Ticktum running wide, and that cost him significant time, enough time for Guan Yu Zhu to go through, and for Alex Paulo to have a look as well. So Aron with tremendous pace and 1.2 second margin over Armstrong, then it's Zhu, Ticktum, Alex Paulo, Ferdinand Habsburg, Robert Schwartzman, Juri Vips, Marino Sato, and then it's Fabio Scherer then in P10. So Aron then with a 1.2 second margin already. And this is a close battle going on between Ferdinand Habsburg and Robert Schwartzman, and also Juri Vips, a three-way fight at the moment for P6. Sweep down towards the back of the Zandvoort circuit. Showing from Sophia Flörsch, who's currently running in P17, the lady racer making a debut into the FIA Formula 3 European Championship this weekend. So Ferdinand Habsburg, Alex Paulo got the measure at the moment. Into that battle to Robert Schwartzman and Juri Vips. Not far behind Marino Sato and Fabio Scherer. Jonathan Abadine, the driver that's just out of the points at the moment in P11. So Gian Daravala has got past the Petro Florescu car on his comeback mission following that collision with Idem Ahmed, which took the nose off the front of the number 9 car, as another lap is put in the book, and it's a second margin for Alfa Ron over Marcus Armstrong. Then it's Guan Yu Zhu, Daniel Ticktum, Alex Paulo, Ferdinand Habsburg, Robert Schwartzman, and then it is Juri Vips, the top 8 places. So Armstrong then puts the fastest lap in, a 1:31.117. And Schumacher takes to finding an unorthodox way of getting back to the paddock, unfortunately. His race done and dusted right on the in the opening stages of the race. So once again, Aron, Armstrong and Zhu looking pretty comfortable in 1, 2, 3. Then Dan Ticktum seen off the charge from Alex Paulo just for the moment, and also Ferdinand Habsburg. Juri Vips getting a bit closer now to Robert Schwartzman ahead of him. That's the battle going on for P7. There's our race leader, Ralph Aron then. P2, Marcus Armstrong. From race control, the incident involving cars 24 and 77 in turn number 3. That's Maya Vadyanathan car number 24. And of course, the Ben Hingley car, car number 77, going to be investigated after the race. There's no further action for the incident in turn 1 involving car number 27 and car number 4. That, of course, the Schumacher and Daniel Ticktum incident. So Meyer, Badjanathan and Ben Hingley, that will be looked at after the race. So the Formula 3 cars continue their race now following the early safety car intervention with this then Fabio Scherer and Marino Sato fighting over that place, and Fabio Scherer in car number 13 and Marino Sato getting so sideways. Big save in the end, to be honest, being able to hold on to that. So on we go with Armstrong beginning to reel in Ralph Lauren by a 10th here and there. I mentioned just a few moments ago he'd set the fastest lap. There is Dan Ticktum at the moment, who's off the podium, and Alex Paolo begins now to get a bit closer to Dan Ticktum straight after the restart. Paolo looked like he got the pace, and there you can see under braking through turn number 1, he really closes on the back of the Dan Ticktum car. Habsburg, Schwartzman, that battle has gone away just for the moment. So too with Jury Vips. They're all sort of 7 or 8 tenths between each other. So Daniel Ticktum then for Moto Park running in P4, but keeping his eyes on the rear view mirror because Alex Paolo is pushing hard in that P5 position. Very, very difficult to overtake here at the Zandvoort circuit whilst it sweeps and undulates through the dunes here on the Netherlands coast. It's a track that is difficult to make a pass on, and to almost try and provoke a small error from the driver ahead just to give you a fighting chance of being able to make a move. But to make a move, you need to run very, very close to the car in front, which means you run in the dirty air, which negates some of the advantage that you need to try and go past. So 15.5 minutes of the race plus 1 lap remaining, and Gian Daravala regrettably is going to have to retire the car, it would appear. So Daravala then, who came in for that nose cone replacement, shot into turn 1, and you can see just how turn 1 is banked. Oh, and how you have to try and get the inside line, and if that's not available to you, try and make your way around the outside. And this is Nikita Troitsky and Sasha Fenestraz, and good move by Fenestraz to put himself ahead of Nikita Troitsky. Sudden through sector 1 is looking very, very quick. Jury Vips is running in P8 at the moment, chasing down Robert Schwartzman. Let's see that overtake all over again, because that was a good one. So you can see going first to the inside, Nikita Troitsky decides to defend the inside line. So that means that all that is available to Sasha Fenestraz is the long way around the outside, which if you can get the slingshot around here and you've got the grip and racing room is left, you can make it work, and that was a perfect example of how that can be done. Nikita Troitsky was absolutely defenseless to prevent that overtake. Thought he probably defended enough by holding on to that inside line, but Sasha Fenestraz with a good overtake around the outside. So that was the position change for P12 in the race. Aron, Armstrong, Zhu, Ticktum, then Paolo, Habsburg, Schwartzman and Vips, then the top 8 places, and then as you can see, Scherer, Sato, Aberdeen, Fenestraz ahead of Troitsky, then Fernandez. So just saw the Marcon car there of Julian Hanses, and Alex Paolo not able at the moment to take anything to Daniel Ticktum. And And Ralph Aron is just controlling this perfectly at the front of the pack, and on course to make it 2 out of 2 starts here at Zandvoort this weekend, and with 9/10 of margin over Marcus Armstrong, who of course himself finished P4, and therefore just off the podium in race 1. We'll be delighted to be on the podium, but of course we'd love to take the win. So Prema Theodore have unlocked the magic button for Zandvoort, that's for sure, with Aron, Armstrong and Zhu leading the Moto Park driver Daniel Ticktum. Guan Yu Zhu just perhaps getting a little bit closer to Marcus Armstrong now. And Ralph Aron. Ralph Aron, it was 9/10 last time around, he's found a 10th, so he's increased it to a 2nd. And for my money, Guan Yu Zhu is now within 5/10 of Marcus Armstrong in P2. So Aron really is just able to check out of this and focus and concentrate on nailing every apex and doing everything just right, and hasn't got to worry too much about being too attacked by Marcus Armstrong behind him, because Marcus Armstrong is probably having just as much to focus on keeping Guan Yu Zhu at bay. Meantime, Ticktum, Paolo, Habsburg, Schwartzman and Jury Vips are all gapped fairly evenly, which means that not too many fierce fights going on at the top 10 at the moment. Of course, the critical points paying positions. So we have 11 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. There is Daniel Ticktum. All started so very, very well for him from pole position, of course, doing all the hard work in qualifying and banking that 1:28.779 to give him the pole position. But right from the very start, Ralph Aron, as I say, buoyed with the confidence of taking the win in race 1, was always going to try and wrestle away the race lead, and did so before they'd even made it all the way through turn number 1. Consequence of that overtake, regrettably, was the loss of Mick Schumacher, who was out into the gravel at this very turn here, the Tarzan turn, banked, where if you're confident in the car and you've got the grip available to you, you can take the high outside line, as we saw Sasha Fenestraz do just a while ago as he made his way past Nikita Troitsky very well indeed. So the gap at the front between Aron and Armstrong is moving by a 10th here and there, but that's all it is, and that's really the same between Armstrong and Guan Yu Zhu. In fairness, both Aron and Armstrong were quicker than Guan Yu Zhu on the last lap. Is that allowing Daniel Ticktum to get any closer? Not really, if I'm honest with you. It's all just focusing on what they're doing. Whatever the problem was with Gian Daravala, is back out again. I don't know whether he did pay another visit to the pit lane, but he's back out on track, making his way through turn 7, I can see from the GPS map that I have inside the commentary studio here. Certainly a long way from being in the points, that's for sure. So the number 7 car of Ralph Aron and the number 27 car of Daniel Ticktum, the two that we zoom into, P1 and P4. And then betwixt the two of them, it is Marcus Armstrong and Guan Yu Zhu in P2 and P3. Guan Yu Zhu just closing a little bit through turn number 1 on Marcus Armstrong, but you just get the feeling that Armstrong is managing that all really quite comfortably. Interestingly, that the overtake between car number 44 and car number 10 in lap 1, which was Jury Vips and Robert Schwartzman, was noted, but no further action is going to be taken on that. So the reason that was being noted and looked at was that was potentially under a yellow, but it wasn't, obviously. So there you can see Schwartzman and Jury Vips. And now, in the number 11 car, you've already seen a fantastic overtake from Sasha Fenestras around the Nikita Troitsky car. And Sasha Fenestras getting just a little bit closer to the number 23 machine of Jonathan Aberdeen. They are within 5/10 of each other. So getting nudging even closer to a points place, because Jonathan Aberdeen is running in P11, Marino Sato is P10. So leaders go through Tarzan turn once again, and there you can see the cars all have 5 or 6 car lengths between each other. All very evenly spaced. So Ralph Aron then, and Armstrong, Guan Yu Zhu, cars all make their way through turn number 3. There is Marino Sato then in the number 33 car, running in that final points paying position at the moment. P10. The 23 car of Jonathan Aberdeen is the one that's just outside the points. And there you can see the Sasha Fenestras car getting just a bit closer to Jonathan Aberdeen. So whether with 6.5 minutes remaining plus 1 lap, whether Fenestras has got enough to be able to really trouble Jonathan Aberdeen. Certainly lapping in the same area, 1:31s. Ralph Aron's last lap was a 1:30.718. Marcus Armstrong was marginally quicker. But we are only talking about less than a 10th, so it's not enough. Marcus Armstrong now posts the fastest lap and brings the gap down to Ralph Aron to 6/10. And we have 5 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap. Is there going to be a final flurry towards the end from Marcus Armstrong? Can he find whatever it will take to get on terms with Ralph Aron? But it's all very well finding that. You then have to try and find a way past as well, and that is not easy. And of course, racing for the Prema Feodor racing team, but of course each racing for their own individual bold ambitions. So there you can see it's come down from points 623 to 0.493 now. So Armstrong finding something from somewhere towards the closing stages of this Formula 3 race 2 of 3. Through turn 10 and 11, the Audi S they go and head towards turn number 12. And Alex Paulo gets past Daniel Ticktum. Paulo goes through. Whether Ticktum has got a problem here, because he's going to fall prey to Ferdinand Habsburg as well. So Ticktum dives to the inside, which means Ferdinand Habsburg has got to go all the way around the outside and be brave and hang it out, and he's done it, dare I say, relatively easily, which makes me think that there's a problem there for the Daniel Ticktum car, because he's lost 2 places there. Next in the queue, of course, is Robert Schwartzman and Jury Vips. Well, that won't have helped. So that was the reason behind it. It was a lock-up. Then that played into the hands of Alex Paulo. That was just after the, just before the shot we saw, so we didn't see that lock-up, and that's unsettled Daniel Ticktum, which means he loses out to Alex Paulo and then lost out to Ferdinand Habsburg, which was this was a really good overtake. Once again, another round the outside bold move that we've seen a couple of those in this race, and that was a good one too from Ferdinand Habsburg, which puts him into that P5 position. Said the next in the queue behind Ticktum was Robert Schwartzman. Whether he will be able to find a way past as well, I suspect not. So we're running out of time here. In the meantime, the Aron P1. It's down to 5/10. So Robert Schwartzman then, is he within fighting distance of Dan Tixon? Not really. So here is race leader. There is P2, visibly closer to Ralph Aron, but with time rapidly running out. Under pressure now is Jonathan Aberdeen from the number 11 car of Sasha Fenestraz. We said earlier on whether Fenestraz would be able to get on terms with that Aberdeen car ahead. So, as you can see, some 2.5 tenths have been taken out of the gap between Aberdeen and Fenestraz. Behind them, Nikita Troitsky, ahead of Sebastian Fernandez in the number 3 car. So Sasha Fenestraz, who was the other one of those drivers that really impressed us with that around the outside overtake through turn number 1, the Tarzan turn. Doing a very good job in that Carlin car. He's taken a win, of course, already this season in the second race at Po, when the season opened back in the middle of May. So Jonathan Aberdeen, for the moment, holds on. A couple of more laps to do after the completion of this lap. And all of a sudden, Nikita Troitsky is getting a little bit closer to Fenestraz. Fenestraz needs to get the hurry up here and try and find his way past Jonathan Aberdeen if he's going to go for it. Otherwise, he could fall prey to Nikita Troitsky, who might try and wrestle that position back that Fenestraz took from him earlier in the race. All completely academic, of course, because that's not up for points grabs, but nonetheless it is the pride of being ahead. Ralph Aron has managed to find a 10th to widen the gap just marginally to Marcus Armstrong, P1 and P2. Now 6/10 between them. The top 3 have broken away quite a bit from Alex Paolo, who of course is P4, Ferdinand Habsburg P5, and Daniel Tickton P6, 5/10 ahead of Robert Schwartzman, who's running in P7, ahead of Juri Vips and Fabio Scherer and Marino Sato in car number 33. So the 1, 2, 3 you can see here. Another Prema Theodore fest really, with Aron, Armstrong and Guan Yu Zhu. Well, do you know what? As we cross the timing line, I think we might get another 2 laps, which I think they crossed the timing line just before the clock went to 0. Yes, sure enough, there you can see on the screen 2 more laps for Ralph Aron and the rest of the pack. Lap record here held by Lando Norris, a Formula 3 lap record. It was set last year at 1:28.204. So towards the back end of the circuit, and through turn 6 and 7 now. And you'll see between turn 6 and 7 the line that delineates the close of the first sector on this track. The first sector really is a long one here at Zandvoort. Sector 2 line comes up very quickly thereafter, as you can see. There is the number 1 car of Guan Yu Zhu, which is in P3. So another one of the Prema Theodore racers, and another one of those in the Ferrari Driver Academy. So Aron with 8/10. Now, what can Sasha Fenestraz do about Jonathan Aberdeen ahead? The margin between the 2 of them is not huge, as now Ralph Aron has 1 more lap to do, as have the rest of the pack. So Aron then on his final lap, and I don't think Armstrong is anything like close enough to be able to do anything. I think Ralph Aron is, barring any disaster between now and the end of the lap, going to bank 2 fine wins in the Formula 3 races so far this weekend here at Zandvoort Circuit, right on the Netherlands coast. So heading through turns 6 now. There is Guan Yu Zhu in that P3 place. And Ralph Aron, to be fair, was very bold and ambitious with the overtake right at the start of the race. And needed to do that and did so. And once he got his nose in front, has never, ever looked troubled. Marcus Armstrong has tried to take it to him and has taken the odd 10th here and there out of the margin between the race leader and that P2 position that Marcus Armstrong holds, but it's never been anything like enough to be able to really threaten. So through the Audi S they go, with just a couple of turns left to do now for Ralph Aron to seal the his second victory this weekend here at Zandvoort, and another very, very accomplished drive from Ralph Aron, who heads towards the checkered flag and once again weaves from side to side to take yet another win. P2 goes the way of Marcus Armstrong, then it's Guan Yu Zhu, Alex Paulo, then Ferdinand Habsburg, Dan Ticktum, then P6, Robert Schwartzman P7, Jury Vips takes P8 ahead of Fabio Scherer and Marino Sato, rounding out the top 10, the rest of the order on the screen. So the Prema Theodore team pretty happy. Ralph Aron wins race 11. Feel a bit for Mick Schumacher, who of course got turfed out right at the start of the race. And there in replay, Ralph Aron takes the checkered flag for the second time today as a race winner. And there, the delight on the Prema Theodore pit wall, and congratulations offered from some of the spectators on the dunes here as well. Let's take a look at the full confirmed results then. Ralph Aron taking the win from Marcus Armstrong, Guan Yu Zhu, Alex Paulo, Ferdinand Habsburg P5, Daniel Ticktum P6, then it was Robert Schwartzman, Jury Vips, Fabio Scherer and Marino Sato, ahead of Jonathan Aberdeen, Sasha Fenestraz, Nikita Troitsky. Then it was Sebastian Fernandez, Artem Petrov, Julian Hanses, Sofia Flörsch with a P17 finish, Kevin Andres, Petro Florescu, Jean Dorovala we lost, as we did Mick Schumacher, Inem Ahmed, Ben Hingley and Ameya Vadyanathan all out, sadly. Super Slow-Mo's the top three. First of all, Guan Yu Zhu, P3. P2, for Prema Theodore Racing, Marcus Armstrong. And then taking the win for the second time today, Ralph Aron. So they're in Parc Fermé. And congratulations being offered. So good camaraderie within the team, as you can see. Handshakes and congratulations all round. Interested to see what the position is with regards to the points. Well, there we are. 131 points now to Marcus Armstrong. Ralph Aron is closing rapidly, though, on 126.5. Daniel Ticktum now 118. Guan Yu Zhu 112. So the Drivers' Championship hotting up really rather nicely, with still lots of racing to come, of course, from the Formula 3 European Championship. There's Rennie Rossin, then the team boss of Prema Theodore Racing. You can see there with the glasses on and the broken razor, obviously. As Marcus Armstrong is weighed, and Guan Yu Zhu is standing by to be weighed also. And there are the celebrations in the Parc Ferme area. Always good to see. And of course their third race coming up tomorrow. Exhale of breath there from Ralph Aron. And drivers hustled off up towards the podium area. Of course, two podiums as always. It'll be Aron, Armstrong and Zhu for the 1, 2, 3 in the race, and then the rookie podium will contain Armstrong again for winning the rookie race effectively, Robert Schwarzman and Jury Vips. So podium being readied. Drivers all standing by.
Hey guys.
Meantime, down there, the Prema Theodore team ready to congratulate. So there are the drivers, all smiles. There's Ralph Aron then. Of course, represented. There's Guan Yu Zhu. And Marcus Armstrong. Already there. A national anthem to play out for Ralph Aron.
Dat was het volkslied voor.
So the anthem plays out then, and it is presentation time. Manfred Sandbichler from Hankook Tyres then making the trophy presentation to Ralph Aron. And the Prema team receive yet another trophy to add to the burgeoning cabinet. Marcus Armstrong then, who at one point we thought might be able to take it to Ralph Aron, but in the end it certainly wasn't to be. And Guan Yu Zhu then collects his trophy for P3. So the drivers pose for the photographs, the focus of the motorsport media on the young talents in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. And then, of course, the champagne erupts with some gusto, it has to be said, up there on the podium. Well, Armstrong had legged it for a moment, but he is still there. Guan Yu Zhu and Ralph Aron, well done to them all. I'm not sure that we'll have time for the rookie podium. There's a possibility that we will. Armstrong will be back on the podium. So then, as the drivers tidy themselves up from the podium, and well, Aron was quickest, and Guan Yu Zhu was just slightly selfish, if I may say so, Ralph. Sometimes the action on the podium can be quite entertaining. And there is Renee. And that is a recovery truck. Which sadly is not going to go through the turn. Looks turning into the paddock. I was rather hoping we were going to get a sideways moment, but with Mick Schumacher's car on the back of it. So conversations then from Ralph Aron down there. 2 out of 2. Great weekend he's had, and this is the rookie podium then. As Marcus Armstrong goes to the top step, Robert Schwartzman on to step 2, and it'll be their Estonian racer, Shuri Vips, who goes on to the 3rd step of the podium. So national anthem then plays out for Marcus Armstrong. Well, the PA man obviously found the volume button for that, didn't he? As we say, thank you for watching the 2nd race of Formula 3. Make sure you join us for race number 3. Renee, you cannot sing. Bye-bye for now.